Hey everyone, welcome back to Mountain in the Mist. We are on part 4 of our rabbit hide tanning series. If you missed the previous videos, go back and watch them. They contain a lot of good stuff, especially the last one that showed you how to flesh the rabbit hide in detail. Moving forward, we've got our rabbit hides that are totally fleshed, as well as some hides I had preserved on salt that are ready for this next process, which is rehydration. So let's consult our Trubon tanning manual here. Flip open to page 8 and figure out what we need for our solution. They recommend warm water, salt, and liposol. So I use cold water from the hose. It takes a little bit longer to rehydrate, but it's not that big of a deal. And then I've got the salt from the feed store, as well as the liposol here that came in the kit. This manual is written for a deer cape. And so since we're doing rabbits, I adjust the volume of everything based on how many hides I'm doing. I have 9 hides here, 5 fresh and 4 that I saved on salt. So you can see that these are really crunchy and will need more time than these ones to rehydrate. With 9 hides, I think that 3 gallons is totally fine. So I'm going to alter the math for 3 gallons and not 5. So I got my 5 gallons of water in a bucket here, and then we'll need 1/4 pound of salt per gallon of water. So that leaves us with a 3/4 pound of salt. Perfect. And then for the liposol, they recommend 1 ounce per gallon. So we've got 3 gallons and we'll use 3 ounces. You can see the bubbles starting to form. We'll get the salt in there too, and we'll grab our handy dandy bamboo stirring stick. Get that all mixed up in there. Our hides will remain in here until they're rehydrated. So it usually takes about 30 minutes. It might take a little bit longer for those really dry hides. You don't want to leave your hides in here too long. Forget about them overnight. There's some solvent in here that could damage the tissues if left in here too long. Notice I am doing this on our gravel. In case there's any spill, I don't want to destroy any nice grass. All right, that is well mixed and ready for the hides. I'm just gonna put these in. We'll give this a little smush down in there. If I was doing more hides or in a larger animal, I would obviously need a bigger bucket, but this one works just fine for 9. Make sure that they're completely submerged, and we will check back in 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. I gave our hides a good stir, and each one feels pretty loose and soft. So I think it's safe to say that they're rehydrated and ready for the next step, which is going to be pickling. I'm going to don my gloves on, and I've got my crate system set up here. I'm going to pour my hides into that crate system where it can drain down, and then I'm gonna go get some water to let it rinse. Just give these a little rinse. I like to rinse between each step, even though it doesn't necessarily say to in the manual. That's just my preference. Now let's go make the pickle. Bye-bye. Let's make our pickle. According to our manual, we're gonna need about the same amount of water, so 3 gallons for this number of rabbit hides, as well as salt and citric acid. They recommend 1 pound of salt, as well as 3 ounces of citric acid per gallon of water, so we'll need 9 total. So let's go ahead and measure out our salt. We'll need about 3 pints or so. Dump that into our bucket here. That takes care of our salt. Now let's measure out our citric acid. This is really important to keep your pickle acidic enough. If your pickle isn't acidic enough, your hide might experience fur slippage, which means the bacteria was allowed to get into the hair follicles and destroy them, and so you'll lose the fur on your hides, which is a huge bummer. It's why we use the pH strips to check the pH. 2 ingredients are added to the water. Let's go ahead and give this a good stir. Make sure it's all dissolved, and then we will throw our hides in there. The hides are going to stay in the pickle for at least 72 hours. However, I have left hides in the pickle for 6 weeks, and they've been totally fine as long as that pH is in the appropriate range. So if you're not ready to totally tan your hide, you can freeze it, you can dry it on salt, or you can leave it in the pickle until you've got some spare time. I'd say that's dissolved. One thing I like to do is wring out excess water. That would just dilute the pickle solutions. I give the hides a quick rinse, squeeze, and into the pickle they go. This is really important when it comes to tanning sheep hides, because a lot of water stays in the wool, and so it really can dilute your pickle if you don't squeeze out the extra water. The hides are in the pickle. Gonna give it a nice stir. I overestimated a little bit, and I probably could have got away with maybe 1 gallon less, but I'd rather overestimate than underestimate because I really want the hides to be fully submerged in the pickle. If any of it is sticking up, it's just an opportunity for bacteria to grow. So sometimes I'll even put a weight on the hides to make sure that they're all submerged, like a plate or something. Let's check the pH of our pickle solution. This is really important. We want it to be acidic. If it's not acidic enough, then hair slippage can happen. So bacteria will enter the hair follicles and destroy them, which causes the fur to fall off later in the tanning process. Totally sucks. It happened to me, and ever since then, I switched over to using these pH strips and not a pen. These are really easy to use, and there's like 100 of them in this little pack. And so when we're measuring the pickle, we want them be between 1 and 2 and look dark red. So let's go ahead and see what we are at. Now I gave this a good stir before checking. I like to give it a little bit of time. It's been a couple minutes, and as you can see, this strip is looking like a 2, which is great. That tells me that our pickle solution is in the right acidity and that I'm not gonna have any bacterial growth in my hides. Now, what I'll do is check it again tomorrow and then basically leave these hides in the pickle for as long as I want. They can stay in this pickle indefinitely. I've kept a sheep hide in a pickle for about 6 weeks. That was totally fine as long as they are submerged and they read between the 1 and the 2. They need to minimally sit in the pickle for 72 hours. That's the sweet spot. You can stir it every day or you can forget about it, whatever is easiest for you. What I'm gonna do is submerge my hides fully so that none of them are sticking up. And then I'm gonna store it in a place where animals can't get to it. And I'm gonna put a lid on it so it doesn't evaporate. This would be okay to leave for a long time. You can see that everything is pretty submerged. There's nothing sticking up. What would be concerning is if, for example, if it was left like that. Right here is a great opportunity for bacteria to get in there and do its thing. So don't let any of the hide stick out. The fur is okay. If you're really concerned, like I said, put like a weight on it and have it all completely submerged, but this should be fine. I will be back in 72 hours or whenever I get around to it. I'll see you then.